So you finished decluttering, but now what? Here are the 14 biggest mistakes that you can make after you declutter with ADHD. And the first mistake is don't take a long break after you have decluttered your house or apartment. I know you just got done, you got everything in the order that you wanted. It was a battle, it was a struggle, but you finally completed it. And I'm not saying don't take a break at all. What I mean is don't say, hey, I'm going to take a break and be done with decluttering for 3 months or done with decluttering for a year because I'm doing spring cleaning this time and next time this year I'll do it again. You don't want to do that with ADHD because you probably got into the situation where your house is all in the clutter fashion because you procrastinated trying to clean up the clutter and you just let it get to a place where there is so much in your house or apartment. And so you don't want to make that same mistake again. And the other thing with ADHD is really hard to plan something out that long. Like trying to plan out something like 6 months in advance is just a struggle when you have ADHD because of the fact you're dealing with all the different executive function issues of things of how to plan something out. And it's even really hard with ADHD to plan just 2 weeks out or a week out and try to remember everything you have to do without getting distracted by something else. So it can be a great challenge just to do it for a month out. But if you leave it for a whole year, that can be really bad. So the solution to this is you don't want to take that long break. What you want to do is each day, you want to take a little bit of time and go around and take some clutter and put it into a clutter drop zone, like a place where you have all your clutter, or go around and put things back in the place they are supposed to. Now, I'm not talking about an hour, 30 minutes. You can if you want to do that, but I'm talking about just 10 minutes, just 5 minutes. Just take this little bit of time each day to go ahead and clean up and declutter. And that way you're not doing it all at once. But the other thing is that you're not just taking that break to where it's 3-4 months before you do anything else, right? It's not that extended time period before you go ahead and do anything focused on decluttering. And I'm not going to say your house or apartment will remain perfect because it won't. And you will build up some clutter. You will have things that will get out of place. But if you take it just a little bit each day, then you're going to prevent it from getting as bad as it was. You'll be able to kind of manage that. And what you're trying to do with this is you're trying to maintain, you're trying to just make it more manageable overall for you so you don't have to go through the big kind of declutter again. And the next mistake is don't try to sell everything that you have decluttered. It's really hard to do. And have you ever tried to have a garage sale or been to one, try to help your friend have one? It is a process. First, you got to figure out everything that you want in the garage sale. Then you have to figure out, okay, how much am I going to charge for this? And then how much do I want to haggle for it if I do have to do that? And then you have to make a list of everything. And then you got to try to figure out if you have everything. And then you got to go through and put everything out and make signs and sit outside and talk to people and just a whole process. It's not a fun process. It's not an easy process to do. You may think that, hey, this is going to be easy and great, but even if you do it online, it still takes all that time to set up something so that you can sell it with all the descriptions, all getting everything together, all getting everything, making sure that you have a way to ship the thing to wherever you want to ship it to or where you want to put it on the website, all that kind of stuff. And so you don't want to go through that whole process every time that you declutter because it's just going to make everything take longer. And your purpose in this is to make your house or apartment look a lot better and more spacious and to get rid of stuff. You have to get rid of stuff out of your apartment and or your house. And if you can't do that and you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to sell this stuff and then you're holding it, waiting for somebody to buy it. What if they take a really long time to buy that thing? What if it takes you, 3 months, 4 months, or even a year for someone to buy this specific thing that you want to throw away in the beginning, you want to get rid of, but you're holding it for that perfect person to buy it because you do want to sell it because you think it has value and you don't want to just give it away. But all the time that you have not sold that thing, you have to hold it somewhere. So it's going to remain in your house or apartment, and it's just going to remain cluttered there, and it's just going to remain taking up space. And what I'm really trying to say is that there are other ways to get rid of things. And if you just can't figure out a way, like you've had it for a little while, you try to sell it, you just can't, maybe you need to think about another way of getting rid of that thing so it can get out of your house or apartment and you can free up that space that you want to free up and make your house or apartment look nicer because now it looks more organized. And they also have these different apps where you can just talk to everyone in your neighborhood. So a lot of times on those different apps, people are looking for things that they might want to use, or they're even having things on there for you to buy that they just want to get rid of that you may need as well. And so it can be a really good way to, get rid of some stuff and also find some stuff that you might need. And so this is another way that you can actually go through and do that without having a huge hassle of having a garage sale or something like that. And the next mistake is you don't want to take that clutter that's in your house or apartment and put it into an off-site storage unit. This is not a good thing because with ADHD, it's out of sight, out of mind. Now, what's going to happen when you take all that clutter, put it in a place that's far away from where you are, and it's all out of sight? You have no idea. I mean, you have an idea that it's there, but eventually you're not going to have any idea what's all in there because storage units do happen to get a lot cluttered a lot of the time. And so you just have a lot of stuff in there and you look in there, and I've been there where I've looked at one and said, I have no idea what's in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. And then you have to go through it and try to figure out what's in there, what's not in there. And if you have to get to something that's way in the back of it with all this other stuff in front of it, you may never see it. And so it's a good idea to not take that stuff that you have in your house or apartment and take that clutter and put it into another storage unit off-site somewhere. You don't want to do that because of the fact that now you can't see it. Even though your house or apartment looks better, there's going to be a time when you have to go to that storage unit and try to clean that out as well too. So now you don't only have to declutter your house or apartment, but then eventually you're going to have to go to that storage unit and declutter that as well. And that can be a very big task to do if you have just left stuff in there for a long time. And it keeps building up and building up and building up. And now you have a big, huge storage space that needs to be decluttered. And you're going to look at it and say, wow, there's no way I'm going to go through this whole thing and try to figure out everything that's in there. And then seeing all that, you might make the decision that I'm not really going to do this. And then you may never really do it until it's absolutely essential, like your move or something. Then you have to go in there and try to clean it out. And that can become a very, very big task to do. And so you do not want to take that stuff that you have that's cluttered in your house or apartment. Let me stress this a lot. You don't want to take that stuff and put it into an off-site storage unit. You want to just get rid of it, get it out your house or apartment, whatever you have to do. But that is a huge trap to put that stuff there. And also, don't say this to yourself. Don't say, hey, I just have a few little things. I'm going to put it in that storage unit. Don't worry about it. I only have this little bit of stuff to put in there. But that is a one-time thing that's going to turn to another time thing and another time thing. And now you have a lot of different times that you've said, I'm only going to put this little bit of stuff in there. And that is where it gets into a huge problem after you've done that so many times. And another mistake is that you do not want to overuse the space that you just created from decluttering. And what I mean is you've gone through, you've decluttered, you now have a lot of open space or just more space than you had before that you are able to use and put other things there if you want to. But what you do not want to do is bring in so much stuff from the outside back into those different spaces. And now you have cluttered up that space again. And then you're going to go through and declutter it again. So you want to make use of the space, but you just don't want to have that space so crowded that it becomes cluttered again. And so you just want to be aware of that when you have actually done everything and you feel good that you have a spacious, more nice look to your place or apartment because you finished all your decluttering, you just want to be aware of how many things you bring into that space, how many things you add to it, and is it getting to the point to where it's starting to look cluttered again? And another big mistake is that you start a new junk drawer after you've cleaned out your old junk drawer. You've cleaned it all out. You've gotten all the random stuff out of your junk drawer. You've cleaned out everything that might be trash. You've cleaned out all the random stuff that you have no idea what it goes to. You've cleaned out all the stuff that you were looking for that you finally found, and you finally figured out where it went to the other device or thing or whatever. You have all that stuff out of there. And then you want to go ahead and start another one. I mean, that can be a huge trap to just have a junk drawer in your house or apartment. And the reason I say this is that all the random stuff ends up in your junk drawer, and you're going to have to go through and look through there and find everything that you might be looking for. and you have no idea a lot of times what's in your junk drawer. The situation comes along and you're just like, okay, I've looked everywhere else. It might be in the junk drawer. Let me go look through there. And so now you're trying to go and look in a drawer that you had no idea if that thing is even in there. But you're going to be like, hey, I put random stuff in there all the time. Who knows, right? But the thing is, you don't want to have a drawer like that because it creates another space to where you can go out of sight, out of mind. You put it in there, you forget about it, you never know if it's in there or not. And with ADHD, you never want to have stuff out of sight, out of mind. Another mistake is letting yourself get discouraged because now you see clutter again. Now, yes, you have gone through, you've decluttered your house or apartment, you got everything out that you need to get out or whatever, or you sold everything, whatever you want to do to get rid of that clutter, you have done and completed. And then you're looking back and say, I did a really great job. Everything looks so much better. But then a couple of days from now, you start to see that clutter creep back in and you kind of get discouraged. Like, I did all this work, is getting to the place where I knew that I wanted to be. And now I see like clutter starting to creep up again. Don't get discouraged because no matter how much you declutter, no matter how much a gooder job that you've done decluttering, clutter is going to show up again at some point. And so that's why it has to be a continual process of you decluttering or get rid of stuff or making sure that your house doesn't get to that cluttered point again. And you're trying to maintain an environment with minimal clutter or just into a place to where it's just looking pretty good and you know that you just don't feel uncomfortable in the place that you're at because there's so much stuff around. If you're going through and doing a little bit of decluttering each day, then you'll notice that, yeah, it might be starting to creep in, but you are maintaining a decluttered environment just by doing a little bit each day. And so then you will prevent it from getting to the point to where it was before when you had to declutter everything. And another big mistake is letting people give you their clutter because they don't want it and they're going to decide to give it to you. And you don't really need it, but you just kind of feel bad because they're giving it to you. You don't want to say, no, hey, I don't need that. I don't want that. Instead, you take it and now they've just transferred their clutter into your house or apartment. And now it's clutter there. But now you're at the place to where you're like, okay, I have this thing, but I know I'm not going to use it. I don't really need it. I just didn't want to be rude and say, hey, I don't need that right now. I don't really want to have it. I know you're my friend and everything, but give it to somebody else or whatever you want to do with it. And so don't let people do that. Just because you think, I might use that one day. There might be this one time that I'm going to need that. And just I'll think about it and I'm going to take it because I know that one time might come up. Don't take it if that's the only thought in your mind about, hey, that you need this thing. Unless it's something really important, like, maybe a generator where you live in a cold environment. Now that's one thing. If they're like moving and say, hey, do you want this? It helped me out, but I'm moving now, or they got a new one or whatever, then that's okay. But if it's something that is just something you are not going to use, you're not going to wear, it's just going to sit in your house or apartment in a room somewhere, and you just have it because they gave it to you. And then you get to feeling guilty because you don't want to give it away, because if they give it to you, they may come back and ask and say, hey, whatever happened to that thing I gave you? And then you kind of feel bad because you're like, well, you don't want to tell them you gave it away again because they'll be like, well, I gave you this. I thought you needed it. And then you're just like, well, I gave it away again. So that whole situation can be avoided by just saying, hey, thanks for offering it to me, but I really don't need it. And that way you avoid bringing in clutter to your house, to your apartment. And that allows you to be more clutter free. You really don't need more clutter in your house if you're trying to declutter. You just declutter and you've got your house or apartment looking all nice. You don't want to bring in stuff you do not need, because then now you have a new piece of clutter that you don't need that you're just going to have to throw away later anyway, right? So just nicely decline. And another big mistake is don't leave things that you're going to donate in a bag to where you cannot see them easily, because there have been so many situations I've heard about where people are like, hey, I went through, I decluttered everything, I put it in a bag, I put it in the trunk of my car because I was going to take it to the donation place, and it's still in there 3 or 4 months later because they just forgot about it. They never saw it, they never thought about it. Every time they want to go ahead and take it and thought about it, they got distracted by something else, and it never made it to the place that they need to go to actually donate everything. It just sat in the trunk of their car. You cannot see that bag of donation stuff that you have because out of sight, out of mind with ADHD. So you need to have it somewhere where you can easily see it, where you won't forget it. But any place that you have to where you put this that you can't see it is a bad idea. Trust me, just it's a bad idea with ADHD. And another big mistake is that you fall back into the pattern of holding on to things for a really long time, or just bringing into more clutter into your house or apartment and just holding on to it because of the fact that you think you might need it one day, or you might use it one day, or you might wear it one day. Do not get back into that pattern. You want to make sure that you are still trying to declutter, that you're not holding on to anything that you don't need, and trying to maintain as much of a clutter-free place that you can. And another big mistake is having items in your home that do not have a place at all. Like, you can't find a place to where you can put this thing or set this thing to where it makes sense, to where it looks good, to where you're like, okay, it's good right there, and it feels like it just belongs in that place. If you have no place like that in your home for whatever you're trying to use or put or keep or whatever, if you don't have a place like that, then you want to make sure that you actually do need this, or is it time to get rid of that thing? You might have a piece of furniture that looks a weird color that you're just like, I bought it. I know it can fit somewhere, but doesn't go with my style at all anymore. And it's just in pristine condition, but of the fact that I'm never going to use it, or it's just going to be something I put in, a back room somewhere where all my other clutter is. And I want to get rid of it, but I'm thinking about keeping it. Just try to figure out where you can actually put it, where it actually goes. If you can't find that place, then you may want to think about which way that you can get rid of this thing, and make the decision that you're not going to keep it anymore. I can't find a place for it. I've tried and it's just not working. It is now time that I got rid of it. And that is the final decision. I'm going to not let this thing take over my house or apartment, or just stay in this place I could use for a lot of other things. So go ahead and try to find a way to make sure you do not keep that thing. And another mistake is not being flexible about how you want to declutter in the future. You may have decluttered one way today, and it may be the best session you've ever had. You've gotten so much more done, but in the future, you may want to do it a different way because you're in a different situation. Maybe you're in a different house or home, or maybe you're just have a different time of year, and it's just a different way that you need to declutter that time of year. So some things are going to be the same, but just be flexible, because of the fact that with ADHD, it's a good thing to be able to be creative and change things up, and not be able to be in this little strict way of, hey, this is always the way that you have to do it. Let your mind just be free and be able to just say, hey, I did it this way this one time. Let me try it this other way this other time. And maybe this way will be better. And so be able and be flexible to be okay with that. So don't get discouraged, and don't get, frustrated if you're like, well, this worked last time. Why is it not working this time? Or I worked it this way this time, and now I have no idea what to do with this next time because all this other stuff I learned just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this situation. And I know this is one of the things about ADHD is that there is a ton of creativity and innovation with people with ADHD. And there are probably so many situations where you thought that you could not do something, and then you just had this creative burst and just said, oh, I can do it this way. And that's one of the major parts of ADHD, because a lot of times you are able to find innovative solutions, or just a different way to do things that is good for you and functional for you. And another big mistake is worrying about if you made the right decision as you declutter, because there are going to be a lot of decisions that you have to make. But don't dwell on, was that the right choice? Did I really need to throw that away? Was there not a way that I could have kept that? and put it somewhere else and held onto it for a bit longer. Don't worry about all those things because generally when you're going through and decluttering, you already kind of made that decision like, hey, I haven't used this in a long time. It's not really useful to me. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. And I need this space for something else. So I'm definitely going to get rid of a certain number of things. But don't worry about it because you can really worry about, you know, all the things that you've thrown away or gotten rid of or sold or whatever, and just keep dwelling on, was that the right decision? Did I really need that? Did I really need to get rid of that? And going through that whole process. So you don't want to do that. You just want to be okay with all the decisions you made because you don't want to get into the other thing too of analysis paralysis where you're like sitting there and looking at something to say, well, should I get rid of this? Should I not get rid of this? Maybe in this situation, I'll use this. I'm not sure if I really need to keep this or not. And then it's an hour later and you're still trying to decide on the first item or just one or a couple items when you really need to go ahead and go through the whole decluttering process. And just don't dwell on every little thing that you've thrown away or gotten rid of and going back and thinking you made the wrong decision. You probably made the right one and it's probably the best one for you. But overall, it's going to help you so much because now you have extra space. Your place looks more amazing or great just because all this clutter is finally gone and it just feels like a much more welcome space to live in. And another big mistake is forgetting to take an after picture after you finish everything because you have now gone through, decluttered, everything looks much better. And so go ahead, take that picture to say, hey, I've completed everything. See how nice this looks. It just feels so much better being in a clean and organized space with all the stuff just gone that I really didn't need. And you need to be able to look at that and have some sort of memory and be like, this is a really good thing and be able to celebrate all that you have done. And this one picture where you take one after you've completed everything can be like a memory or a memento of that. And it's also really good because when you complete something, then you get a little bit of dopamine generated in the brain. And also when you can go back and look at the pictures of how far you have come and how far that you have gone through and decluttered everything and the result, that can be a little dopamine generating as well too, because now you get that reward in your mind that I completed this. Look how much I have completed. Now it's even better if you can take like little videos or photos along the way. Video is actually even better because now you can kind of record and look through and talk about everything you kind of went through, whatever, and just pan the room if you want to do that as well. But even if you take videos or pictures like along the way as you're decluttering and keep kind of a record, and then each day you'll be able to see all the progress that you're making all the way through and all the things that you did. And you might have just memories of the whole time of the process as you're decluttering, and maybe something funny happened there. So that can also be captured if you have it on video. But otherwise, just to see how the journey went. Now it's even better as well if you can take a picture before and then also take an after picture, because now you can see where you started really in a big picture form and really say, wow, this is a really place that I really needed to declutter, and then see at the end everything that you completed. And that's also a really good thing. And another big mistake is forgetting why you decluttered in the first place. Everybody has a reason. Whatever reason that was yours, you need to remember what that reason is. It could be you have a special event coming up. It could be that you just like looked at the room and was just like, I need to get rid of some stuff. It could be just a number of different reasons, but you need to know why, because of the fact that that will motivate you as you go through this process and are wondering, why am I keep doing this? You need to know the why, because you want to be able to have that goal in your mind. And then as you're going through, okay, I'm doing this so I can have more space in my room. I really need to get rid of all this stuff. And that's going to be your why, or just for some other reason. But you need to remember that along the way so that you know why you are actually going through this whole process, which may not be a whole lot of fun to you at the time, but the result that you want is really important to you. You can even do something like maybe put a picture up on the wall of some sort of thing that you want your room to look like as well, or the thing you need to get to maybe put in the corner here or there, whatever you need to do, but make sure that overall you know the why you are decluttering. And now thinking about it, I do have another video about the biggest organization myths with ADHD and organizing and how I debunk them, as well as give you solutions and the reasons why. And that's an awesome video for you to go check out. And you can watch that video right here.